Screen. All right. So if you haven't done so already, please put your name and affiliation in the attendees list. So we have no lightning talks planned, but if you're interested in talking about some of the work you've been doing, feel free to just add an entry to the schedule here. Okay. So we've got a couple new user-raised issues. The first one looks like it's already being looked at by Sajna. Second, I know, Peter, you responded. Do you feel like there's anything left here, or it's just works as it's supposed to?
They're allocating a buffer that's too small and then using unsafe to right outside the buffer. So I don't think it's something we need to be looking at.
All right. So I will make a note to post that.
4 days ago. I'm tempted to just close it, but there's been no response.
Okay.
Oh, there was a response.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me look at it and I'll see what I want to do.
Okay. I think it sounds like there's just a difference between how we fail in these cases, but
yeah, there's no guarantee of any particular behavior that's undefined. You're writing outside of a buffer.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Peter. I think we can remove this. Shoot, I'm just gonna take a quick look. Yeah. So,
yeah, it's just notice that we did this. We never saw any problems after enabling it. Or there might have been one early on that we fixed, but.
all right. Respect to 0.41. I think we wanted to start GA this week. Is that the case?
Yeah, so OpenJDK should be putting out the releases this afternoon. Usually now they seem to come quite late in the day. So we'll get those imported and start running some testing and then see about starting M1. I don't know if we'll be able to start tonight or tomorrow, probably.
Okay.
M1, RC1.
RC1, yeah. Okay, thanks, Peter. So JDK 21. I think we're down to 17 issues. We can start with Chang just to give us an update on FFI.
So far, I think it's already done everything in the unit support and submit PR for code review. Except there is one issues we detect on the AX, which likely related to the opco sunk. Still work with the Julian to see how it goes.
Okay. Okay, so there's so reviewing the PR is next, and then Julian's looking at the failure on AX. So I think we're so. Yeah, so I'd say we're still at least a couple of weeks away.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Chang.
Thank you.
Babni, update on the JVMTI issues.
I think we closed 3 last week, and this week I think I see 4 over here, and all of them are intermittent. I think GAC is was looking at the breakpoint in yield one, and the remaining 3 are assigned to me. So I've been looking at one of them, and the remaining 2 has no progress yet. And I think a new JVMT also showed last week related to Devon's and GAC's changes, which is redefine running method. So we are looking at like 5 issues in total, and all of them are intermittent. 2 GAC is looking at, and I'm looking at 1, and then 2 will be 2 have no progress, and I will probably start looking at one of the 2 which have no progress sometime this week. And I think that sums up my update.
Okay, thanks, Bevney.
They're intermittent, but we can reproduce them.
We can reproduce them. So the failure rate is very low. The thing I have to do is create code files now to see why they have been failing. The test output doesn't show us much, and the way we have to generate code files will be to force a stack fault. So I'm just in the process of creating those code files.
Okay, thanks, Bevney. Jack, is there an update on virtual threads?
Yeah, so I've had a discussion with Lynn on the GC issue that we have seen problems with relating to the 4G stack migration. So I had a talk with Lynn about how the slot iterator for stack allocated objects are being done and how the overwritten is being done. It looks like the way we're currently overriding entries is not appropriate, as GC will be confused and may rewrite the entries that we already updated. So I'm currently updating the code to specifically handle stack allocated objects, internal fields, so that we use the GC API to properly do the overriding instead of using direct memory write. Other than that, the Java core issue is currently pending review. Local testing and personal build passed.
Okay, thanks, Jack. So I think now that we since we have a workaround for the Skynet test,
Yeah.
the 4G stack migration is not a blocker. So I think we should just shift focus to the Java core and the remaining JVMTI issues, because those are the ones we need to resolve.
Okay.
To release JDK21. We can push on the 4G stack migration to post JDK21.
Okay.
All right. So there's a few other issues that are JIT related. Is Henry on the call? Henry, do you have an update on those?
Sorry, not not at the moment. I'll have to go through them. I know that they're being looked at anyway.
Okay. All right. So yeah, the next step is figuring out an M1 code split date. I think we're at least 2 weeks away from that, so we can probably revisit another time once we have a better outlook on some of the major items. Peter, do you have any more thoughts around that?
Just that I added the schedule for the 043 release, and I've set a code split for November 17th. So I think that should be our deadline for Java 21. Be kind of nice if we could split at the same time, but I don't want to hold up 21 if it is ready earlier.
Okay.
But if we get to November 17th and we haven't split yet, I think we should split for 21 at the same time we're splitting for 43.
Yeah.
So if we don't get
actually-
21,
Those dates are wrong. Sorry. It's November 10th. I'll update that.
so if we don't get 21 out before the January release, then the next plan is to do it with the January release, I'm guessing.
We might code split at the same time, but we don't have to wait on Java 21 until after January 16th to do the GA. Although, if we don't wait, that means we'd be doing a GA quickly followed by a 2102. So I'll have to see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah, so November 10th, which isn't that far away.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Peter. Adam, any updates from machines?
Not a whole lot. There was one Mac 10 we had issues with. It's been sitting there since May. We did add it, get it reinstalled, and it was added back to the farm. There was one issue with it, so we should be able to address that today and get it back in again. There was 2 machines that we took back from Omar for AX. We're being vetted. There was a few test failures on one of the runs, so we're just investigating that to see if it was machine related or code related, and then we'll add those back. Still having issues with testing at UNB. We haven't really had a good opportunity to fully investigate that, so we've reduced our testing to almost 0 there. So we should remind our developers launching PR builds that UNB testing is unreliable. So that's Xlinux, Plinux, Xmac, and AMAC. So we might want to avoid those platforms if we can until we can resolve this or run personal builds inside.
Okay. When did these issues start?
Probably been going on for like a month now,
Okay.
but it seems to have gotten worse.
The side effect of trying to test on these machines is not only do the tests fail, they seem to take down Jenkins. So Jenkins, I think, can go back to a reliable state if we're not trying to test on them. We still build them, still build these platforms nightly, and that seems to be fine. Although it may be slow.
Okay. Do you think it's worth putting a message on OpenJ9 committers so everyone knows?
Sure.
Yeah, we can remind people. I think we did put a message earlier, but good to remind people that it's still an ongoing problem.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Adam. No Marius today, I don't think.
Actually, what I think of it, I think we have some Plinux outside, but for some reason, not very many.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could ask for more.
We did. How many? Just looking to see how many we have now. Because like our Jenkins and our factory run on them.
Yeah.
And
So-
then we also dedicated one as a worker. So then we only had one at one point, but then we added more recently.
Some, I mean, we have enough outside.
We
Maybe
could
we could
disable the
disable the
testing
UNB
on
ones.
the UNB ones.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll confirm that.
And we could ask if we could get even more machines.
There's 6. Which is not a lot, but it's
But that means we could enable it for some versions.
Right.
We could turn it on for Java 21.
Okay.
I'll have to look and see. Yeah, okay. So maybe I'll just remove the test labels from the UNB machines.
Okay. And then we'll take PLX off the do not test list. Okay.
All right. Yeah, so we'll move on to the other items. From CRU, there's nothing new. We got the changes we needed for 0.41 in. So we're looking there. We're looking good there, at least from a JDK perspective. Any update on Valhalla, Hung?
Yeah, so we're looking at removing the queue type. And firstly, we have to refactor the existing test that relies on queue type. So the RP are looking at refactoring those tests.
Okay. All right, thanks, Hung. Okay, so it brings us to the last item. So this is just a continuation of last week's discussion on how we want to do community events. This call being the main one, whether we should continue or change our approach to this. As a background, we've been doing this call since 2017, and participation from JVM users is quite minimal. Participation seems to likely be from the JVM developers, the IBM Red Hat people, and there's a question as to whether having this call does provide value to the community, to the broader community, and perhaps we should focus our efforts on things that do provide value to the community users specifically, as these are the people that we do engage with on issues. So my proposal last week was basically to cancel the existing format where we have a weekly status call and instead have calls that are very intentional and purposeful. So as a starting point, we'll schedule a call for every release. So that's the 4 quarterlies and 2 feature releases. And then additional calls can be scheduled for things like presentations, Principias, and any topic that arises that requires high bandwidth discussion. We can schedule a call for that as well. All of these are ad hoc. And the idea is to use the planning channel for any status-based communications so that if someone is interested in knowing when a release is coming, they can see the ETA concerning that. So we did have discussion. Some of the feedback was we've gone from basically a weekly cadence to 6. That's a huge change. Other feedback was we could do more outreach with social media, and for some of the developers, the only exposure to what's going on is this call, and lastly, that we're on our approach that we should still remain transparent on what we're doing, and that what we're really discussing is how the information gets shared, not that we're restricting what gets shared. So does anyone have any other concerned feedback with the proposal? I can address all of these, but I'd like to hear if there's anything else that we need to be thinking about in addition to these.
One thing that I can think of is just that if we're going to have ad hoc meetings, it might be worth also putting that in the mailing list, because I know if the idea is to have more community-based engagement, then usually in open source communities, a lot of times some of these things get distributed via mailing list, which I know in our case is not very active, but maybe I know that the mailing list would be more likely to reach people than say the planning channel, which not everyone may have joined in Slack. Whereas the mailing list, at least hey, by the way, gonna have a meeting this month. In addition to the planning, I mean.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Any other concerns people can think about? All right, if not, so I'll try to address these. So the first question is on frequency. So it's not my intention to limit it to 6 meetings a year. It's just that I want to limit it to 6 penciled in meetings a year. My goal is to get away from our current situation where we are meeting because there's something in the calendar, and so we're kind of just going through the motions. As I said earlier, I'd like these meetings to have a specific purpose to them, such that when we do make them publicly available, if someone is interested in that particular feature of the meeting, there's a video there and they get the information that they're looking for. I think with our current meetings, I'm not sure it is relevant to anyone who isn't already on the call. So I think for what we're discussing here today, I think we should continue discussing these things, but I think we can do it a different way, and I don't necessarily think it has to be done as a OpenJ9 community call. So my intention is not to have only 6 meetings a year, but to have 6 meetings for the purpose of discussing what we've released, and to have other meetings for, again, specific purposes, things that will provide value to the broader community. Any questions on that specific response?
Does that mean that when we have one of these release meetings, we're going to have presentations prepared to present the various features?
Yeah, so my intention is that when we have a release, I'm going to talk with the leaders, committers who are involved in significant contributions for that release ahead of time, and ask them to prepare a summary of what changed, why we made these changes, and etc. Just describing what's new in the JDK. So it's a little more than release notes in that we get a bit more commentary. But that's kind of the idea.
So would the meetings be longer, or maybe we'd have 2 meetings if we can't handle it all in one half-hour slot?
Yeah, so my feeling is that half hours should be long enough for this meeting. But I think that's something we can learn and modify as we go. Any further thoughts on that one? Okay, so the next one, outreach with OpenJ9 Twitter accounts, or I'm just going to say social media in general. So I think Mark did say that he was going to look into that, and I'll discuss that with him, as I believe he controls the account there. But I think if we do change format where our meetings are more purposeful, I think our outreach becomes more clear and targeted, and I think you know, the Twitter accounts, the mailing lists, etc., they start to be more, they start to have a bit more impact because it's not just a repeating invitation. It's, you know, we're doing this specific thing. So I do think that we can start to lean on these mediums a bit more. The third thing here, so for some people, this meeting is really the only way they get information about what's going on. And so I do think it's important for all the developers to be aware of what's going on. I do think we have other ways of sharing this information, and I think we should start using them a bit more. So we do have lightning talks we used to do a bit more frequently, and I think we should return to that practice. I know given the time constraints we're on for releases, we've had to drop some things, but I think we should start to look at that a bit more. Additionally, I think, so the intention is that the community can also raise an issue they want discussed, and we can make a meeting for it. The community also includes the developers. So if there is something that you as a developer feel you would like more information on, that is a topic that you can propose, and we can create a meeting to discuss that topic. So I think we can address this in multiple ways and make sure that people are still getting the information that they have been getting in the past. Any questions or comments on that?
The only question I have on that is more one of the things that's, I don't know if it's useful per se for me, but just it's interesting to know about is just, you know, the various statuses of the various features. Is there a plan for sort of, because you know in these meetings you'll go through all the different like Valhalla, FFI, all that kind of stuff, sort of to see what we're doing. Is there a plan for how that gets communicated? It doesn't have to be a meeting, just curious as to, you know, various statuses of various features.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so the proposal is that we'll continue to do weekly status, but it will simply be a post in the planning channel. So the idea is that we will convey the same information that we're conveying. We'll just describe, here's where we are this week relative with respect to JDK 21, for example. We have this many JVMTI issues, you know, this many FFI issues, etc. Here's what we did in Valhalla. Here's what we did in CRU, etc. But it'll just be a post in the planning channel.
That makes sense. Thanks.
I'll move the information about milestones and code splits to the milestone plans.
Sorry, milestone plans, is that something we have in the OpenJ9 channel? Or OpenJ9 Slack, sorry.
The milestone plans are part of the OpenJ9 Git repo.
Okay, I see what you mean.
So there's a place where you can have, you know, just top level comments. So if we're not going to have these minutes anymore, then I'll, in those comments, besides the names of the releases, I'll put the milestone and code split dates.
Just so you mean like right here?
Yep.
Okay.
So that should be easy for everybody to see what they are.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, we kind of skimmed over 043. If the code split is November 10th, there's 72 items. We need to start moving things out.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll take a look. Henry, please take a look as well to see if there are things you need to move out.
Yep.
Thanks for reminding us, Peter. Yeah, so I think that pretty much summarizes all the concerns. So I think what I'll do is I'll make a poll, and it's going to quickly summarize the change of approach, and then I'll leave it open for the rest of the week, and it's just a simple yes, no if you agree. If we have majority agree, then I'll make an announcement, and we'll transition to the new approach. Does that sound good to everyone?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what people think of sharing their status via putting messages in Slack rather than saying something on a call, because I suspect that writing something down in Slack might actually be harder. But maybe not.
So personally, for me, I think the benefit of putting a Slack message is you can do it at any time. I personally don't think it's more difficult, but that's just my take. Anyone else have an opinion?
Yeah, probably for people who has follow-up questions on the updates of each project, they won't get instant response from the Slack compared to doing a call. I'm not sure whether which way people prefers, but it'll be easier for people to who ask follow-up questions to do that on a call than the Slack message.
All right. Any other comments?
Are we going to have a meeting next week
We'll find out.
based on the
I will-
poll?
Yeah, I'll post an update at the end of the week just to say I will be moving on. It might be worth it to have a meeting next week regardless, just to make sure everyone's on the same page on next steps. But I'll put
Or
that.
maybe we should try skipping one. So we thought that the FFI work would take 2 weeks, so we could skip next week and have one the week after.
Yeah, it's also an option.
I guess the current calendar invite for this meeting is sent by Adam, right? So I guess that needs to be updated as well.
Well, I think I think that was just internal though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there is some kind of Google external calendar invite you can subscribe to.
Do you control that, Peter?
I don't know if I have access. I think Dan created it. I'm not sure what it's associated with. Might just be some generic thing that anybody can do. I don't know. I'll have to take a look.
Okay.
Yeah, even for the internal calendar invites, we'd better cancel those invites if there's no meeting scheduled.
Are we agreed to skip next week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with skipping next week unless someone um is interested in having that one. I don't see any. Please speak up now if you really want a meeting next week.
Be a trail run of not having so many meetings.
Yeah, okay. So we'll take a break next week. I see you've updated the. Yeah, thanks, Peter.
I think if we're gonna skip next week, it might be worth also running the status updates in the channel to see how it goes.
Okay. Yeah, good suggestion, Erwin. All right, we can call it now. Thanks everyone for your time, and we'll meet again in 2 weeks. Also, look out for my poll in the. I'll pick a channel that has, or maybe I'll just put it in general, unless someone thinks there's a more appropriate channel for that.
Or planning.
Okay, yeah, I'll put it in planning then. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Right.